From America's farm to Fort Capital and some of the richest farmland in the world, it's time for What's in Season with Michael Marks.
Welcome to the 1-year anniversary of What's in Season with Michael Marks. I'm so excited that you're with us today. When you talk about March in this episode, people start thinking of St. Patty's Day. They start thinking of everything green, like cabbage. We are going to focus on cabbage today. You're going to learn a lot about cabbage. If you don't like cabbage, by the end of today's show, I bet you're going to love cabbage. Of course, Mandy Bottoms is with us from Ag in the Classroom. I can't wait for her pH experiment. We have Dr. Chelsea Azarkon is here with us today doing a house call. And Dr. Chelsea is going to talk about addiction and your diet. There's a combination of those two, so we're going to talk about that. And of course, Chef Adam Peckel is with us today, and he's going to be talking about what else? Cabbage. He's got a great recipe for us. So let's go ahead and get started. When you think of green cabbage, this is what you think of, this head of cabbage right there. We get the name cabbage. It's a Latin word, brassica, which means cabbage. In fact, it's the brassica family of cabbage, right? And it's not just cabbage. There's so much in the brassica family. We have broccoli is in there, turnips are in there, rutabagas are in there, bok choy is in there. There's so much in the cabbage family. We call them cruciferous vegetables. We call them cruciferous vegetables because their flowers are the only flowers that are shaped like a cross, like the crucifix, right? So that's why we call them the cruciferous vegetables. But when it comes to cabbage, this is the mainstay of cabbage. So when it comes to green cabbage, a couple things I want to show you about the green cabbage. First of all, when I'm at the market, here's what I do. I pick up 2 green cabbage, just like this, and I will, do you hear that? Yeah, that tells me they're fresh. I mean, if you rub them together, now don't do it really hard. Don't be Arnold Schwarzenegger with it. Just a gentle little scratch, right? And if you hear that squeak, oh, those are fresh. That's fresh cabbage. If you don't feel a squeak, well, that means you put those down and find something else. Also, I want you to think of the color. When I first started in produce, my first job was to trim the cabbage. That's right, trim the cabbage. And so every day I would go to the cabbage section and I would peel off the outer wrapper leaves, right? Every day. So by the 3rd day, we get down here, and then we get to the 4th day, and I peel it again to make it look fresh. Have you noticed something? Yeah, it's starting to get very white. It's starting to get very pale in color. So when I see cabbage that's very pale in color, almost white, that is old cabbage. They've just been trimming it for several days. So I look for the darker green cabbage. Also, when it comes to cabbage, let me show you something on cabbage. The first thing I want you to do with your cabbage, if you're going to cook it, before you cook it, I want you to take off the top third, just like that. See, the top third is the sweetest part of the cabbage. So if you're going to use it raw, like in coleslaw or something like that, or put it in your tacos, I always cut off the head, right? Cut off the very top, and then I will shred that. That's always going to be the sweetest. Now, the rest of this, of course, I can cook. Let's see, there's other cabbage. Of course, there's red cabbage. 5% of your salad mixes in the store, 5% of those mixes are, of course, red cabbage. It's a beautiful color, right? Beautiful red cabbage. Of course, you have Asian cabbage. This is Napa cabbage. One of the things about Napa cabbage this time of year in the springtime, I want you to poke right in the very center. And I want you to feel down there. A lot of times in the spring, they will bolt. They will go to seed, and you'll feel this very hard core in there. That means you don't want that Napa cabbage. You want to find another head of Napa cabbage. I love Napa cabbage, by the way. There's another head cabbage that I wanted to show you. It's called Savoie. A lot of people call it Savoy, but it originated in the Savoie growing region of France. And it's just like head cabbage, except the leaves are crinkly. I love this because it cooks up faster. You know how sometimes when you cook cabbage, it gets all stinky? Well, this cooks up faster, so it's not as stinky. I love that about it. And then, of course, the smallest of all cabbages, ladies and gentlemen, my favorite vegetable. Yes, we're going to talk a little BS today, Brussels sprouts. These are just a head of cabbage, but they grow differently than a head of cabbage. They grow on a big, long stick, right? And all these little cabbage heads come out of it. So here's what I want you to do with these. You can bet, I tell college students this all the time. I want you to bet all of your friends in the dorm that you can eat 5 heads of cabbage in less than 60 seconds. Now they're thinking, this head of cabbage, right? And you're going to come out and you can win some money on that bet. Hey, don't go away. Coming right up, we have Mandy Bottoms is going to be with us. A pH experiment just for kids. Hey, welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. By the way, somebody asked me, how did cabbage get its name? Well, it actually comes from a French word, caboche. Caboche is the French word for head, and it's a head of cabbage. So that's where we get the name from. It's kind of, it's not really caboche, but we kind of call it just cabbage. So that's where it got its name, a French word. This time of year, you're probably wondering, you take an apple out of the refrigerator, right? And you go to bite into that apple, and it is so crunchy, right? Man, it just crunches. And you probably think, how is it so crunchy? It's March. They harvested these apples in September. That was what, 7 months ago. Why in the world are they so crunchy? Well, it's because of what we call controlled atmosphere. 1950s, they developed a system called controlled atmosphere. And it's actually where they control the oxygen and the carbon dioxide and the temperature levels where they store these. Basically, they put these to sleep. So they harvest them in September, they put them to sleep, and so when they pull them out of those controlled atmosphere rooms and you bite into it, it's just as crunchy as when they pick that apple. Thank goodness for controlled atmosphere. Also, one of the things in spring I want you to think of, everything starts to regrow, right? All of your bulbs in your garden and flowers start to regrow. Well, this is a bulb and it starts to regrow, and it's very, very typical. So onions, I tell everybody all the time, especially in springtime, always check the neck of the onion because that is where it's going to decay first, right? So you can see this. You'll also see this growing in garlic as well. They start to regrow. So just be careful of that. Also wanted to talk about celery because March happens to be the unofficial celery month. And so I wanted to make sure that you knew exactly how to pick out the best celery. The very first thing you do is you look at the celery. Okay, is it dark green in color or light green in color? Remember cabbage, I want dark green. Well, when it comes to celery, I want light green celery. Light green celery is sweet celery. Number 2, when you pick it up, it needs to be very heavy for its size. That means there's a lot of juice, there's a lot of water in these stalks, right? So very heavy for its size. And number 3, just like the cabbage, you want to see if it squeaks. But here we go. Yeah, give it a quick little squeeze. Please don't squeeze the Charmin, but you can squeeze the celery to see if it's fresh. Hey, coming up, don't go away. We've got Mandy Bottoms. You're going to love this experiment just for kids. All right, Mandy Bottoms from Ag in the Classroom is here. She's already put me to work slicing up some of this red cabbage. Oh my goodness. Okay, Mandy, so you take the red cabbage, you put it in a big bowl, and you pour boiling water on it. Is that right?
Just until it's covered, just until the cabbage is covered.
Just until it's covered.
And then we let it cool until it reached room temperature.
Okay, now we're gonna strain. Look at the color of that. Oh my goodness, that is fantastic color. So the purpose of this experiment, if you have kids who love a little science, right, is to discover the pH.
Yeah, so red cabbage, which I don't get why they call it that when it's purple, but red cabbage is a natural indicator of pH. So you can use it to basically check or test the pH of a number of different liquids that we have here today.
Look at you putting me to work. So if you have a scientist in the home, what kind of stuff can they do with pH?
So, most of us don't feel like we interact with pH on a daily basis, but it's actually around us in everything, in any living thing. And so what it's helpful for is if you have a young person who loves science, they might be considering a career in soil science, in environmental science, in nutrition or medicine. pH is important for all of those different fields. So our family, we farm, so we have a lot of soil.
pH of soil
is really important because you might see things happening with your plants and you come to find out that the pH has gotten out of whack. It's either too acidic or too basic, and so you adjust it.
Okay, so here's what we're doing, right? We've got some apple juice.
Yes, so let's test the apple juice first, and you'll notice the indicator is going to change colors. So just keep filling it up until we notice some color change. Okay, so you can see that this one has gotten lighter. It's almost a red. So that's going to tell us that it's a pretty basic. We'll see. You'll be able to compare them in a minute.
This is some lemon juice.
Yep.
And we're just, oh, look at that. Oh my goodness.
So this one's getting very acidic. Okay, and then this one I created earlier. This is our baking soda solution. So this one should be pretty basic, probably the most basic. Okay, you can see the color there.
That is real blue.
Yeah, and afterwards it's fun. You can have your child put this in order from the most basic to the most acidic. Then we have, I thought this was fun because a lot of kids love Gatorade, so we can check and see how acidic Gatorade is. A little bit, but not too much. Then we have the club soda.
It's bubbly now.
That didn't change much at all. And then lastly, we have some vinegar. So don't mix this one with the one next to it, or you'll have some bubbles happening.
Wow, so which one has the most pH, the highest pH?
So the one that's going to be the most acidic, because pH is scale tells us what is acidic, is we're going to do it by the brightest color to the darkest color.
So that's more acidic.
Yes. This is more acidic, this is more basic, and then these are somewhere in between. This one's not quite as acidic as lemon juice, so you can kind of see the range that shows up
What
there.
a fun experience.
Yeah,
I love
anybody
it.
can do it at home. You have most of this stuff at your home
It's all
already.
in your cabinets, everybody.
Yeah, and you don't have to try these specific things. You can ask your kids, hey, what do you want to test? And they can bring it to you and try it out.
Oh, very, very fun. Ag in the Classroom, tell us a little bit about Ag in the Classroom.
Yes, Ag in the Classroom is a nonprofit, and our job is to provide resources and programs for teachers or parents or caregivers who want to help their young person learn more about agriculture. So our website is learnaboutag.org, and you can find resources and activities similar to this one, but we have so many activities. You can find it no matter what your interest is.
That is awesome. Hey, coming up, Dr. Chelsea is with us. Addiction and the brain and your diet. Don't go away. There's so much addiction in our culture. So Dr. Chelsea Zarkon is with us today. Dr. Chelsea, from a medical point of view, what is addiction?
Yeah, I think that's really helpful to think about, because with addiction, what happens is our brain becomes dependent on an external stimulus to make our feel-good brain chemistry. So serotonin, your happy neurotransmitter, and dopamine, your reward neurotransmitter. And the reason I find that helpful is because I think most of us have going on in our lives what I might consider micro addictions, meaning we're still functioning, it's not meeting the DSM-5 criteria for addiction, but our brain maybe is still dependent on that external stimulus to feel good and to feel happy and to get through our day. That might be your cup of coffee in the morning, your glass of wine at night. It could be food that you're eating when you're stressed. It could be looking at your phone and entertainment. And so those are ways that all of us can kind of tweak our natural brain chemistry to be a little happier, a little more focused.
Okay. So does what we eat play a role in our brain and the addiction to certain things?
Well, absolutely. And one of the things I think people don't realize a lot is that oftentimes when we're reaching for something that's a bit of an addictive substance, it's because we don't have healthy habits in our lives. So we stay up too late looking at our phones, we disrupt our circadian rhythms, we don't sleep, then we're reaching for coffee to make those brain chemistry that'll get us focused and get us going through our day. So diet is absolutely one of those habits. And there were actually some studies looking at what foods drive food addiction specifically. And they're exactly what you think they would be: foods high in carbs and fat and sugars. And there was another study that showed the more that we eat that standard American diet, the higher our risk of anxiety and depression, these mental health conditions that drive us to kind of self-medicate with addictive substances.
Okay, so how do we break the bad habit? How do we break that?
So one of my really simple things that you can do is just get at least 2, and some people really need 3 nutritious meals in every single day. And what that does...
My Fruit Loops is not one of them.
That's right. Fruit, maybe, but not Fruit Loops. So what that is going to do is it's going to give you stable blood sugar. Just want to nourish yourself.
Well, you know, your grandma was right. Eat your fruits and vegetables. That's always a good policy, right?
Absolutely. Eating the rainbow of fruits and
Eating
vegetables.
the rainbow of fruits.
Yeah.
Hey, coming up, Chef Adam Peckel is with us today, and he's got a great recipe for us. Don't go away. Hey, we started the show with green cabbage. We're going to end the show with cabbage. Now, there's so many things you can do with cabbage. It's raw. You've heard of chow chow, right? You've heard of kimchi. You've heard of sauerkraut. Of course, Kentucky burgoo. Have you heard of a Kentucky burgoo?
I've heard the name.
It's a stew.
Don't know what it is.
It's a stew with cabbage, right?
I'm going to deep dive on that one later.
Very, very popular during the Civil War. Chef Adam Peckel is with us today.
Yeah.
We're going to end the show with cabbage. What are we doing with it?
We're going a little more kind of in the German, Austrian way. We're going to do a little bacon braised cabbage. As you mentioned earlier, I really like the Savoy for this. I like the Savoy for a lot of stuff. Like you said, it doesn't take as long to cook. And I think it's a little sweeter. Love the texture, love the color.
Beautiful.
Cut the cabbage just right in half, and then half again, and you see you got that nice core in there, and you cut the core out, and then from there, you can cut cabbage any way you want. If you wanted to go to that real thin, you can just like that.
There's a speed limit in here.
Yeah, hey, well, slow down. That's a little too thin for what we're doing today, so I'm actually I'm just gonna cut it in half and do some little wide, slightly wider, because I love, I say braised when we're making this, but it's kind of more of a saute. We don't need to make it real soft. I like that crunch. So we've got some bacon that we started with, right?
Oh.
Gotta have some bacon. A little bit of that fat. This is a one-pot meal, nice and easy. Let's crank that up. And we've got some onions, red onions I prefer. You could use both. A little bit of garlic.
Just a little.
Yep, or a lot. If you like a lot of garlic, go for it. I'll get a little salt in there just to make sure everything's playing nice together. A little pepper, right? Get that going.
We just learned another official culinary term from Chef Adam. Playing nice together.
Playing nice together. You want everything to play nice together. This is a little bit of a curveball, a little bit of fennel seed. If you like that fennel flavor, get in there with it. If not, leave it out. You can definitely customize this thing. A little brown sugar for sweetness, okay? You get all that. You want to saute this down. Of course, we're on television time, so 5 minutes, cook this stuff down a little bit, but at this point we can get our cabbage in there.
So 5 minutes and then add the cabbage.
Yeah, cook down all those ingredients again, get them playing nice together. You want those flavors to develop and get going.
And again, you're using the Savoy cabbage, which it cooks up faster.
Yeah.
So it doesn't stink up the whole house.
It doesn't. I drove with a pot of this stuff in my car on the way here, and my car smells great.
Okay.
And so then a big thing is, so we're kind of going for the sweet and sour thing. We got all that sugar in there already, a little apple cider vinegar, about a quarter cup or so, a little bit of chicken stock.
Oh, nice.
A little bit of that. And then we just cover it. And
that's it.
Yeah, and then you can kind of cook it, I'd say at least 15 minutes, and that'll get it nice and cooked with a little bit of crunch to it. But if you want to, some people like a softer cabbage. There we go, magic of television. Why don't you just set that bad boy right there, and look at that.
Oh, my
and now
goodness.
You see it's starting to get some color on it, and we will just serve it up. This is a favorite for me with like pork chops. Perfect accompaniment for like a pork chop, some potatoes. You can just see the color, and I'm sure you can smell it.
Oh my goodness, that smells so good.
A little bit of parsley on there. And then this is also, I was just talking about last night, I think we might have some of this on hot dogs later today. So.
Oh, very cool. Yeah, it's almost like a chow chow on hot dogs,
It's a little chow
right?
chow. It's got the sweet, the sour, some savory, the crunchy bacon in there. It's a fun dish.
Oh, you did it again. Oh my goodness. Beautiful. Thank you, Chef, for being with us today. And thank you for joining us on our 1-year anniversary. And we'll see you next time.